Hey, what's up, everyone? It is not Sunday night. It's Monday, or at least that's what they tell me. But we are still here to wind down your holidays at Bat City Comic Professionals. As always, I'm Shannon, aka Small Press Shann, and I'm going to tell you about all the latest and greatest in indie comics that have come out in the last 2 weeks. We skipped our live stream for our Wind Down Your Weekend on December 25th because of the Christmas holiday, and we skipped yesterday because of it being New Year's Day, but I couldn't help it. I was talking about all the great books earlier today, and I was like, I have to just tell these people about all the books that they're missing if they haven't stopped by in the last 2 weeks. So here we are. We're going to talk about a bunch of the books that I love. We're going to talk about some new number ones. We're going to talk about my picks of the last 2 weeks, and some in stocks. I'm not going to go crazy. I'm not going to tell you everything that's come out in the last 2 weeks because that would be insane, but we are going to talk about a lot of books, so buckle up, get comfy, grab your drink of choice to wind down your holidays. We tonight here are going to be drinking Saddlebred. This is a Pinot Noir. It's actually a cherry and strawberry blend, which is really interesting, like the notes of it being cherry and strawberry. Because usually you just think of grapes, but I'm really excited. It's got a rich smell. As soon as Matt opened it, I could smell it in the building, but we're going to give it a go and see how we like it. I like it. It's kind of sweet for a Pinot Noir, but it still has that dry kick on the after side. But this is definitely one of the sweeter Pinot Noirs I've had in a minute. It does say that it's great for pairing with grilled and smoked meats and sauces with earthy ingredients, which I feel like that's all of the things that we eat sauce-wise are usually earthy ingredients. But speaking of great sauces, since we're going to talk about sauces, I'm going to give a shout out to Sarah over at Ascura, which if you've been to Bat City, you know it's kind of diagonally across the street. Sarah is their sauce queen, and for Christmas she gave us 3 sauces, and we had them with our traditional New Year's Eve charcuterie board, and they were amazing. She had a blueberry basil, a tomato sauce that was a tomato jam, and then a pepper jam, and I'm not even sure what peppers it was. She said she usually does tomatillos, but they didn't have any in stock, and so she picked a different jam. I don't remember which one it was, or different pepper. I don't remember which one it was, but it was amazing. I'm going to slide this wine over just a little bit, but if you are drinking along in any capacity, again, even if it's just orange juice, let me know how you're hanging out and what you're enjoying, and drop in the comments how your holidays were. We hope everybody had a great and wonderful holiday season. And that your new year is starting off right. We're 1 day into 2023, and I'm going to start it with some great comics. I hope you are too. I'm going to take another drink, and then I'm going to get these comments up and going so we can start the show. Yes, that's very delicious. All right, let's see who's here. We got some people joining in. I'm going to share this really fast. It's comic time. If you did read something amazing in the last couple of weeks, I want to hear all about it. So please drop what you've been reading into the comments if you're here and you're joining, even if you're joining us later and it's not live while we're doing this. If you're joining us on YouTube, obviously don't forget to like and subscribe, but still tell me in the comments what you're loving and what you're enjoying, because I do check those and I want to talk about books all the time with people. So we're going to blow through some of the new books kind of fast to get to those big number ones that came out and the picks of the last couple of weeks. But I'm going to start out with issue 2 of Mysterium from Source Point Press and Asmodee Entertainment, which if you know Asmodee, you know that they're a gaming company. And Mysterium, we learned on the last live stream when issue 1 came out, is actually a board game as well. Which you can buy at the Mysterium, I didn't bring the thingy, the escape rooms over in Sarasota, across from the Hollywood Theater, and I think Matt is going to grab their flyer. You can grab the board game there, and you can grab the comic here. Oh, yay, thank you. Woohoo! Here is the information for Mysterium escape rooms. If you haven't been, this is a great way to spend a weekend time with your friends, or they're open all week long. And if you go Monday through Thursday and you take a Bat City receipt, you can actually get a 20% discount on your escape room experience, and they have a ton of fun ones. So go over there. And until then, check out Mysterium, the book. Like I said, from Source Point, this is issue 2. And this is the story of a man who was murdered. And we get kind of a paranormal version of Clue, essentially, because the person who is investigating the murder is somebody who's got like that psychic powers. He uses a crystal ball, and he brings together other people who have the art of divination from other worlds. And so we have a tarot user and a pendant user and a man who kind of just talks to the spirits through different things, and they are all trying to figure out what is the cause of this person's murder and who did it. And each one of them in the last issue talked to some spirits in their way, and they all come back at the beginning of issue 1, and they all have a different solution to who the murderer was and what happened. So the investigation continues, and once again, issue 2 leaves us on that cliffhanger where they all come back and they say, I think I've solved it, and we have no idea what that solution is going to be unless we grab issue 3. So if you like Clue and you like board games and kind of solving mysteries, this is great. It's kind of a fun thing for fans of Knives Out who are like, oh, I just like those mystery books and mystery movies where we're all working together to solve something. This is great because every time you think you have a clue, it goes in the opposite direction. Up next, also from Source Point, is we have issue 3 of Argus. This is a time travel story. This is all about a man who finds out that he did in fact invent time travel when he was in college. But he messed it all up, and now a task force of different hymns from throughout time are working together to kind of solve the time crisis that they've created. Specifically, one member of his past who went crazy with the time, or I guess his future, who went crazy with the time travel notion and is now trying to destroy everything. And in this book, issue 3, always, I tell people all the time, always read through at least issue 3 because that's where your twist is going to be. And we definitely get a big one in issue 3 of Argus where we find out everything that we know about who's on what side of the time traveling crisis may not be what we thought it was. And so issue 3 kind of hits the fan. We're going to see what happens in issue 4 and how they get out of the mess that this one guy created and is fighting against himself to fix. From Blood Moon Comics, we have issue 4 of Sulfur Wells. Blood Moon just recently posted that they've had some printer delays, and they were really excited to be able to get a bunch of their books out. I'm really excited that happened because there are multiple Blood Moon comics that I'm always waiting on. And we actually got issues 3 and 4 of Sulfur Wells both this week. So it was really cool because I've been like, ooh, did Sulfur Wells, is it going to finish? Where are we at? And now we've got to continue the story. This is basically all about a small town where a group of like these two guys are fishermen and they work in the town and they kind of just hang out all day. And every time they go underwater, they seem to discover something new. And in issue 3, they actually discovered an underwater kingdom, and they were able to go into it and kind of find out that there's all this buried treasure essentially down there. And they're trying to figure out like where the treasure came from and who it belongs to. And if you've been reading Sulfur Wells, you know there's kind of these sea-type creatures who live under the water there, and we're getting a little bit of here and there on who those creatures might be and how they're connected. What I like about it is issue 1 totally gave you nothing. It was just the setup of this town and all the different people, and then at the end it kind of teased these creatures, and now issues 2 through 4 we've just been embedded in this. What are these creatures? What is this treasure? What is all this going on? And so our adventure can kind of just flow on its own now and you know where everything is in the town. But they do still actually give you a map at the end, so you always know what the city looks like what the town looks like, and when it like developed over the course of history and all those different things. So it's kind of cool to see what we're getting out of this community and where all of this dark stuff might have come from. Up next, issue 3 of Lovesick from Image Comics. That this is all about a girl who runs a red room. I never show the inside of this book, and I don't really know how much of it I ever can, but this is about a girl named Domino, and she runs a red room, and in her red room, she takes out a bunch of incels. And in this particular issue, she's been saying for a while now that she feels like that the people... I'm trying to find a page that I can show you. She feels like the people she's been killing, that they're going to come after her at some point. And in this particular issue, I'm just going to hold it up. In this particular issue, she finally has that moment where the people are going to come for her, and she's having to figure out if she can get out of that and who's going to protect her and what it all means. And it's interesting because this issue starts in a dream, and she has this monologue in the dream as she's going, and then when she's being attacked by the people, she monologues that same narration, and then as she's like dealing with her actual red room stuff and everything throughout the issue, she's still having that same, like, reiterating that same monologue. So it's interesting to see how the same thought can play out 3 different ways. Like, this is a really cool setup for this issue. And we do learn at the end of issue 4, or at the end of issue 3, that we are actually going to get an issue 4. Originally, Lovesick was pitched as a 3-issue series, and the writer said, I thought about it. I was going to only do 3 issues, and I just think there's more story to tell, so we are going to get more to this story particularly. So if you're reading Lovesick, just know that there's more to come. Happy New Year, Uncle Jim. Thank you so much for tuning in. Also from Image, and also in issue 3, we have issue 3 of Hitomi. And can I open this up and show it as a full cover? Sweet. This is a cool wraparound cover for this issue, and there you go. And I think this cover has been one of the coolest for this. But this is a story of a young girl whose family is murdered in front of her, and she decides that she needs to go after the people that killed them. But because she is a young girl, and it is kind of a feudal Japan situation, she isn't trained for the samurai lifestyle. We see this story a lot where it's a young boy and he's already been trained, or somebody's going to train him. And so it's interesting to see this as a female character who's like, nobody's trained me, nobody wants to train me. And she finally found somebody in a previous issue who was willing to train her. And they kind of talk about how she is kind of untrainable at many a times, but they end up taking on a job in this one to clear out a street because the village can't get through to travel, and she ends up not agreeing with the reasons or the means in which they're going to take out the people who are blocking the street, and kind of has her own moment of, not every task is honorable, and just because you say that there's honor in it, I don't necessarily agree, and she finds her own system of honor in this issue. So if you haven't jumped in on Hitomi and you're into samurai books, this is definitely a really good one. It's also just a great way to do a coming-of-age story through that, because she is learning a lot about herself and the world around her as she does it. Issue 4 of Flawed from Image Comics, also out this week. I'm nailing it on some of these actually being this week books. These are last week and this week, but I know this one came out this week. And this is the story of a woman who is a therapist, and she uses her counseling sessions to find out information about people who are the bad guys, who aren't getting picked up by the police or different things like that, and kind of goes after them. So she's kind of the therapist version of Daredevil. But over the last, 3 issues, we've learned that she has a backstory working in the military and kind of being a part of some under siege operations and just some other interesting things and about her character. And now she is determined to go after the person she's been chasing down all 4 issues, which is the Skinwalker, and figure out who's funding his ability to kill people in her community and attack them. And in this particular issue, a lot of things are going to change. We're seeing her get just a little bit further and further into her own head and what she wants to do, and not really listening to people and taking on too much danger. But we also see maybe the Skinwalker is in more danger than he could imagine. So issue 4 definitely brings us a lot more to the story of Flawed. If you haven't started yet, I highly recommend you jump in. From Red 5 Comics, we have issue 3 of Dead Kingdom. Dead Kingdom has been one of the zombie stories on the shelf recently, but this one takes place in the medieval time period, you know, the knights and all of that. And we follow a knight who was on a mission and everybody died and then they started to become zombies. This particular issue finally takes us into the backstory of our knight and kind of why he's been the person who works independently a lot of the time and why he is the way he is and why he is kind of more of my own code of honor that I follow situation. It takes us to how he was brought in to work as a knight, all of his time as a page, and then it shows his general that he was raised by and trained by, kind of crossing a line that he can't go with him on. And it kind of builds that once again builds that code for the young person as they build their own. And then it fast forwards us back to now, and it kind of shows like, hey, this is why all of these things are important to him and why he acts the way he does. And oh yeah, by the way, we're still in the middle of a zombie apocalypse in the middle of medieval times when nobody can communicate with each other. So interesting, fun way to do a zombie story. If you haven't jumped in, Red 5 always delivers a great story, so I would definitely check it out. From Boom Studios, we have issue 3 of Damn Them All. This is a female Constantine story, 100%. This is about literally a snarky British woman who wears a trench coat and a tie and fights demons and curses a lot and smokes a lot. She's very much like a female Constantine, but is a young girl named Ellie, and she was raised by her uncle, who kind of picked her up out of all of the bad things that had been happening to her and brings her to live with him and trains her on how to fight demons and work with demons to fight other bad things. And now her uncle is dead, and so it all revolves around her and her involvement. And she's got people who are trying to investigate her uncle's death. She's got a world where 72 demons have been let out, and there's these coins that are supposed to control them, and they are now in the hands of different mobsters and different people, and everybody's trying to use their demons the way they want. And she has to deal with it one way or another, whether she wants to be a part of that or not. She's now stuck solving that mystery, and she's stuck solving it all on her own, and so now she's got to step up to the plate and kind of be the new demon controller and mystery solver for her community. If you're a fan of any of the Hellblazer Constantine stuff and you're not reading this, you are missing out. This is definitely that realm, without any of it has to connect to any kind of continuity or anything like that. This is just that independent story that'll give you that same feel, if you've been looking for that. And it's Boom Studios, so you know you're probably going to love it. From Image, we have issue 4 of Creepshow. And this issue features 2 stories, as they all do, but they are from Kyle Starks, who has been doing things like, well, actually, I think the next book too, yeah. But he did I Hate This Place and a couple other things, and Henry Barajas, who did Helm's Grey Castle recently. But this first story is basically Stand By Me. It's about a bunch of kids who wander into the woods that nobody goes into when they're having their last summer fun, and they find a dead body, and they're like, oh, what's this dead body? And they end up finding out that it's from vampires sucking the blood dry, and there's vampires everywhere. And then it becomes the story of them trying to take down the vampires because nobody in their town believes them because kids are crazy, and as they grow older, things change and things get messy, and we kind of see how that all plays out for them over the course of that story. And then the second story is all about a young girl who wants to be a luchador. And her grandmother has her father's mask on hand, and she's like, you can't use this mask, it's cursed, there's a reason your father had the problems he did. And she doesn't care because she just wants to be at the top. She wants to be the greatest luchador of all time. And so she steals the mask from her grandmother's house, and some crazy stuff happens. So if you're looking for a fun anthology story, it's literally just Creepshow. If you want to be creeped out, if you want to have those classic horror stories coming your way, you get to every month from this title, and it's still ongoing, and it doesn't matter. You can pick up whichever issue you want because it's anthology. So grab Creepshow if you're looking for some fun. I'm going to take a drink of this wine, and I'm going to tell you it is, again, it's Saddlebred. It's Saddlebred Cellars, I guess I should say, is the company. And it's their Pinot Noir, and like I said earlier, it's very fruity because it's cherry and strawberry together. And so it does have a pretty strong fruit flavor to it. I feel like a little fruit fly. I'm like, it's like fruity deliciousness. Yummy. Up next, from Whatnot Publishing, we have issue 3 of Alpha Betas, also by Kyle Starks, who did that issue of Creepshow, that first story in Creepshow. This book is for all of you video game fans. If you are a video gamer, you probably should read this book. If you like to watch people streaming video games on the internet, or if you like follow a bunch of people on Twitch, this is kind of the comic book for you, because it does have even like the jokes they tell each other and things like that. It just feels like you're watching somebody Twitch stream, or a group of people Twitch streaming, and like you're laughing at them. But this is the story of a bunch of kids who get into a game, literally, like they get sucked into a game, and they end up having to fight their way out of it and fix some glitches, and they find out that the U.S. government has a task force that goes into video games and solves glitches, because video games are used to power different things around the country and around the world. And so the old team has all either died or retired, and so these young kids are taking over. And in this particular issue, they have to go inside the game, the imposter game that everybody plays. One of Us, I think is what it's called. Among Us. I think that's what it is. Anyway, they have to go inside that game, and they're making fun of the game the whole time and how much they hate it, but then they're doing their investigation, and they always go off the rails, and it always becomes ridiculous. It's honestly like if South Park was about video games sometimes. You get like the kids who are just making all the crash jokes while they're playing video games, and they go inside of games that you recognize if you are a video game player. So one of the cool things is every issue does come with a video game homage cover, so there's been a lot of really cool video game homages coming from this. But if you like Kyle Starks, who did all of those books, like I said, Creepshow, I Hate This Place, 6 Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton, this is kind of more on his really jokestery side, and it does feel like you're listening to some like young kids playing on or even I guess some 30-year-olds playing games on the internet. Up next, from Source Point, we have issue 3 of A Guardian. This is probably the most high fantasy book on the shelf right now, or at least this last 2 weeks. Honestly, though, I think I can say with like all certainty that this is probably one of the most high fantasy books on the shelf. It is all about some kingdoms who have been in wars forever, and within that there is a tomb that is hiding something that has been locked up by one of the kingdoms for thousands of years, and they have a guardian who protects it. And in this issue, we actually get the backstory of how the Guardian came to be, but we also see one of the kingdoms that's not supposed to know anything about it admits that they know everything that's inside of it. We see some people attacking the Guardian. This is really the one that's going to move the story forward a lot for what the Guardian story is going to be, but it also is moving us forward within this war of these kingdoms. It's moving us forward on what's inside the tomb. It's also giving us, we've been following this backstory a long time in the back pages of, like, as they tell the story, we're also going like these little flashbacks of these other people, and we're starting to see a lot of where their story has gone and how it's starting to connect. So if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings or anything super high fantasy like that, A Guardian is going to be like a book that you're absolutely going to love. It has all the crazy names for locations and characters. Like, I just expect to find a horse named Bill at some point in here, because it does go like as far into the high fantasy as Tolkien does. But you get all of the cool pictures that go with that, because it is a comic book. So if you have been looking for a fantasy where you can see it and fall into it and really dwell on like all of those details, this is a book for you. If those things overwhelm you, this is going to be a book when you open up each month, you're going to be like, oh my God, what is going on? Who are these people? So you definitely have to be prepared going into it. Know that it's fantasy, but if you like fantasy, it is really well written fantasy. So jump in for all you fantasy fans. From AWA Upshot, we have issue 3 of Year Zero, Volume 0. This is the prequel to Benjamin Percy's Year Zero zombie story that has been going on since the beginning of AWA, actually. And that followed a bunch of different people around the world as they saw the outbreak of zombies and how zombie apocalypse, like, was just already kind of going, and all these different people and how they reacted to it. This volume 0 takes us back to before the zombie apocalypse actually starts, and Daniel Kraus, who's the writer of the Autumnal and also George Romero's zombie novels, finished all those for them, goes back to before the zombie apocalypse has ever even started, and is talking about basically how humans would handle that information. And so we're following a nurse who's seeing a bunch of fights in her community. We're following a flight attendant as she's seeing all these people start to talk about things on the airplanes and all the coughing and the weird behaviors. We see a North Korean soldier as he's watching people trying to come into North Korea, and he's very confused about why people would want to do that. And then we're following a guy who's a detective in another country, and his sister's a mobster, and he's kind of investigating his own mission. And so as you're seeing this, they're all seeing bits and pieces of what could be the beginning of a zombie outbreak, but they don't know anything about it. Nobody said anything, and we're seeing different ways that the different industries hide that information from their people. It's a really, really cool thing. Daniel said that he started writing this at the beginning, during the lockdown of the pandemic, and so it was interesting to him to watch the way information came out and trickled through from different places, and kind of imagine, like, what if this had been a zombie apocalypse? Like, would the information have gotten out any differently? Or what if we basically handled a zombie outbreak across the world in the same way we handled COVID information? Like, how bad would that have gotten and how quickly? So this is a really cool way to see that narrative told. From Vault Comics, which I'm very happy to see so many more Vault Comics back on the shelves, we have issue 7 of West of Sundown. If you have not read volume 1 of West of Sundown, highly recommend you jump in and grab that one, especially if you like the Old West, or you like Universal Monsters, or you like the combination of those two things, because that's what you're going to get here. This is a story of a human and the vampire woman that he's been protecting for a while now. And they started out in New York, and she's starting to feel really sick and not well. So in volume 1, they travel to the Old West. And when we get to the Old West, the town that she's from has kind of been overrun by different kinds of monsters. We have a Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein style character. We have the Maidmen, all the different Frankensteinian monsters. We've got werewolves. We've got other vampire characters. In the last issue, we saw La Llorona. We are getting a little bit of everything. Looks like we might get a mummy coming up soon. It's going to be great. I think Dr. Moreau has actually just entered the story as well. So if you are a fan of monsters in any capacity and you're not reading West of Sundown, you're missing out on a great horror thriller in the Old West starring all of your favorite monster characters. So grab it and check it out. You're going to love it. And this is issue 7. And you can get trades of volume 1 already. So I believe, I could be lying. But if not, it's soon. So I have to double check. From Ablaze Comics, we have issue 4 of The Boogeyman. I always say this is like a Miyazaki film with how, like, heartfelt the darkness is, because it is very dark, but there's just this, like, weird magical connection between the two characters. But this is the story of a young boy who sees his parents murdered by nightmares, and he gets saved by one of the eldest nightmares around, Father Death, and his nightmare dog. And now they're running from all of the other boogeymen and monsters that could come for him. And we're slowly learning about Father Death and who he is. We're learning about all of the evil monsters that are coming for them. And the people that spin out of that, the lower level monsters that they call the Little Sisters, and the darkness that comes from that, and from them specifically. And we're also trying to figure out what's important about this little boy, and we still haven't really learned that. But as with all Miyazaki-style storytelling, this issue is tragic. And you have moments where you scream at the book, and moments where you cry, and moments where you just want to fight back, and you want to remind all the characters to keep doing that. And you can't help but wonder where it's going to go next. This is so well done. And it's not ever like a heavy read. It's always one of those where the panels feel so cinematic that you're kind of just jumping through the panels, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm reading something. Like, you kind of forget that you're reading in this story because it is more focused on that cinematicness of the panels. And if you like those darker end of the Miyazaki, like the horror side of those movies, and those like weird creepy feelings that you get from some of them, but also the heart that you get to take with you, Boogeyman's going to end up being one of those books that you love. Speaking of horror and great books, we have issue 3 of Cover the Dead with Lime from Blood Moon Comics. This is one of those books that I have my 2022 wrap-up coming up pretty soon, and this is one of those books that I'm like, where does this fall on my books of 2022 that I absolutely love? Because it continuously gets better every issue, and it has some of the coolest art for the story that it's telling. But this is the story of a man who is working as a plague doctor, or so we're led to believe, during essentially the bubonic plague. And instead of people just dying from the plague, they are actually coming back to life as zombies. And we've been through issues 1 and 2, we've been kind of led to believe that he's just on some random mission to see this person who called him. But issue 3 gives us the backstory of the connection to that person. It also leads us to how he got to the position he's in, and we see his story of his son getting sick with the plague, and possibly where that could lead, like where if he would go, and him interacting with some plague doctors, asking them for help, and kind of learning that plague doctors were a big giant scam, and that they were just there for money and they weren't really doing anything. And he decides to kind of take matters into his own hands. This was so good. Issue 3, again, if you have to wait, like you're never sure which book is for you, you read till that issue 3, you're always going to find a turning point in an issue 3 that's going to like make or break a story for you. This one's going to make this story for you. This was an emotionally charged issue. It gave a great backstory for him. It made me like love certain parts of the character and hate certain parts of the characters in whole new ways. This is such a great issue, and I mean, we say it all the time that Blood Moon's going to be one of those publishers, and in a couple years, like, everybody's talking about them. And I think it's books like this that are going to lead us to that path. If you haven't checked out Cover the Dead with Lime yet, this is issue 3. There's still time to jump in. Thanks to that delay, you're not too far behind. If you like zombies and you didn't read this one yet, you are missing out on a great new way to look at the zombie story. So, man, that art is just so cool. Issue 9 of What's the Furthest Place from Here is out from Image Comics. This is another one that we had a little bit of a delay with, and I know part of that was they were hoping the record situation was gonna kind of sort itself out for the vinyls, but we still don't know what's going on with that. I feel bad. I know Matthew Rosenberg was very excited about the vinyl situation for this, but the story still goes on. And if you've been reading What's the Furthest Place from Here, this is actually not, the art is not done by Tyler or Matthew on this. This is Sweeney Boo actually did the art on this, which is different from what we've seen in every other issue, which has been Tyler Boss. But this issue is different art for a reason, and it's because in the very first issue, the whole thing was hinging around us trying to figure out what happened to Sid. We keep hearing about Sid and how Sid was sent out to move away, because in this world, we're in like this post-apocalyptic world, and everybody who turns 18 kind of turns into something. We don't know what. They die. They turn into monsters. We still don't know what happens to kids in this world that get over 18, but there are no adults in this world at all. And this is finally the backstory of what happened to Sid. Who Sid is, what happened to Sid, what kind of, like, could be the situation going on outside the door. But this is a separate story that's just Sid's journey after leaving the main group of that we've been partnered with the whole story. So if you have been wondering, who is Sid? What is Sid? Where did Sid go? What happens? This is your issue that you can finally pick it up and learn about that. So you are taking a break from the main story just to see Sid's journey. And I recommend it. Also, this is the Spawn cover, and it's really funny to see, like, Spawn was on every Image cover and every DC cover for the last month for the Batman Spawn crossover and, you know, the 30-year anniversary of Image and Spawn. And some of these just crack me up because it's just so weird to see Spawn in the middle of it. I still think Golden Rage was my favorite, but yeah. What's the furthest place from here? Find out what happened to Sid. I'm so happy to finally know. I feel like I've waited my whole life to know what happened to Sid, so I feel complete now. However, I want to know if everybody else is okay, so can't wait to jump back. Issue 3 of Eve, Children of the Moon. This is volume 2 of Eve from Boom Studios. And Eve is the story of a young girl who is living on Earth after Earth has been destroyed. We are post-apocalyptic water world situation, and a young girl named Eve wakes up and finds out that, as far as she knows, she's the only person left, and her teddy bear has been programmed with the voice of her father to kind of guide her through this situation. Key point from volume 1 to know is that the teddy bear goes crazy and starts killing people, and everything goes sideways, but Eve manages to survive and reprogram her bear and live a happy life with her new family. And now she is working to kind of bring all of the kids who are still left together. But she goes to meet this particular camp that hasn't responded to anything at the beginning of issue 1 of this volume, and they refuse to be a part of her logic. They refuse to be a part of her group. They think that Eve is a traitor because she still works with the bear, which is why that's a key point to the story. And now Eve is kind of in this battle to get these people to join with her and to save them. So it's a really great book. I love it because it is done by a person who is an environmentalist and who works with environmental causes. And so it's interesting to see, like, hey, if I had to leave the world to my kids, I would hope that this is what happened. And then it kind of spur into, but we're still going to get a Lord of the Flies kind of situation in the end. So Eve, Children of the Moon, if you haven't read it, it's really great. I feel like Eve would make a great show at some point. Lastly, for this round of comics, we've got a couple more rounds to go, but for this particular round of comics, we have issue 4 of Forever Forward from Scout Comics, featuring this fantastic Chris Sheehan cover. Yay! I just always have to cheer for Chris. I love Chris. I love this cover. I'm so excited to see that they got a cool cover for this book, because it's a great story for them to be on. Forever Forward is the story of a man who figures out time travel, except for the fact that he only figures it out in one direction. And so all he knows is how to go forward. He gets in a fight with all of his friends on the day they come to throw him a birthday party, and they all end up getting sucked into the future. And the only way back, as far as they know, is to keep going forward because of a message that was written on the wall in his handwriting. So he assumes he makes it back to write the note. They have traveled forward and forward and forward, and everywhere they go, it's terrible. And they finally figure out, in this issue, some of the friends finally decide the only way to make the world better is to stick around and actually fight to make the world better. And so they are rebuilding their own world, while he continues to try to travel through time. And we get to see this story kind of play out in different ways. And who knows? I still don't know how he's going to get back. I still don't know if it's worth going back. And I think that's kind of an interesting point that they make in here is when you keep going forward and you never actually participate in life, is it even worth going forward? You know, you have to be a part of your own life. You have to choose to be a part of the world around you. You have to choose to make decisions that can actually include you in the world. And if you don't, you're just kind of a traveler, like, passing through. And they don't want to do that. And they're like, that's how you've lived your life anyway, so why don't you keep doing that until you solve your problems? This is a really interesting book. I love it. I think this is one of those books that Scout has right now that everybody should be checking out, and like it gets missed a lot of the time because, you know, we've had a lot of time travel books, and so people are like, oh, I'm kind of done on time travel. I think this one's going to end up having a really cool message and a really cool story the way it wraps up in the end. I don't know if that's going to be the next issue. It feels like it could be the next issue, but they opened up a big can of worms at the end of issue 4, so now I'm like, I don't know, you could keep going for a while here because I kind of want to see how all of that plays out. But Forever Forward, issue 4, Scout Comics, check it out. And always tell Press Shann how cool their art is because they're a rock star. I'm going to take another drink before I switch directions for a minute. So this is, again, Saddlebred Cellars Pinot Noir. And it's yummy. I love this wine. This is good. And it says that you should pair it with grilled and smoked meats. And I think... you know, I'm like, I wish I had a charcuterie board right now to go with it because I do think it would pair really well with different cheeses and meats. So, definitely a good one. And this is part of the Winn-Dixie BOGO. So Winn-Dixie always has like buy one, get one free on a lot of their wines. So it was really cool because that was buy one, get one free. So, thank you everybody. I see a lot of people saying Happy New Year to us and to the Bat Fam. Yes, Happy New Year, Bat Fam. Cannot wait to see what we all do with a wonderful 2023 ahead of us. All right. I'm going to talk about some number 2s. I'm going to talk about some endings. And I'm going to talk about some number 1s. And we're going to see how fast we can do this. All right. We're going to go number 2s first. So, up first from Vault Comics is issue 2 of Door to Door, Night by Night. If you haven't jumped into this yet, this is obviously going to be a great time for all of these because we're only on issue 2. And this is the story of a group of people who are traveling salespeople. And they go to towns and they're like, hey, would you like to donate to the fire department? If you buy this 8x10 photo of your family, the money goes mostly to the fire department. Volunteer firefighters can use some money. And of course, we know that they're obviously keeping most of this because they just travel town by town. And in issue 1, we found out that they picked up a traveling stranger, and she was involved in some monster hunting of sorts. And she's left them, and they're on their own in issue 2, except the monsters did not leave with her. And so they are kind of open their eyes to what's going on in this town and all of the terrible things that could be a part of it. And they are now having to deal with monster hunting on their own and realizing they might not be fully equipped with it. To deal with it. So really excited to see how this plays out. This is one of those books that has a cool creative team. You know, you get Cullen Bunn on writing, but you also get Dee Knuff on coloring, which Dee is one of my favorite colorists. And then you have Ann World on lettering, who always does a great job. So I think this is going to have just a solid creative team the whole way through, and I cannot wait to see where the story goes because it's playing out really cool so far. And it's Vault, so I know there's going to be a lot of horror twists that I love. So up next from Image Comics, we have, I can't show this cover because I grabbed the one that has the bad word on it. So we have issue 2 of the latest volume, which I believe is volume 5 of I Hate Fairyland, which has an alternate title, which is why I'm not showing you the cover because I grabbed the wrong one. If you haven't jumped into I Hate Fairyland ever, it is Scotty Young just being ridiculous all over the place. And it is the story of a young girl named Gert who gets an invitation to go to Fairyland as a child. And the fun thing about going to Fairyland is you get to go on an adventure and meet all these magical creatures, and they help you along your journey to find your way home. And usually kids come there and they're there for a day and they have a magical adventure and they never notice that they were gone from home. But Gert can't do it. So Gert ends up there for 40 years, but she never ages. So she's just a small child, or an adult woman inside of a small child's body for 40 years living in Fairyland. In volume 4, she finally made it out, and now she is trying to fight her way back in. So we'll see. We'll show you back. We'll see what happens. Can Gert get back to Fairyland, and can she make her mark there all over again? We'll see, but hopefully for Gert she can, because she doesn't seem to be doing very well on Earth. Also, issue 2, we've got Mark Russell's Traveling to Mars from Ablaze Comics. I'm very excited about this book. I'm very excited about anything that Mark Russell puts words on. Mark Russell could probably write a letter, and I would still think it was one of the best things written in the whole wide world, because Mark Russell is just a stellar writer. No pun intended, as we are traveling to Mars. But this particular story is about a man who doesn't really have anything going for him in life, and then finds out that he's dying of cancer, and he is approached by a company that is trying to get to Mars first, because whoever gets to Mars first can plant a flag and own Mars before it's colonized. And so this ridiculous small company, that's like a fast food company, decides they want to be the ones to get there. So they are like, hey, nobody's going to survive this trip to Mars. We're not there yet. So we need to find somebody that nobody will miss and who has nothing going for them and send them to Mars. And since he's dying and he's got nothing going for him, they pick him. It's been really fantastic. He has these great conversations. The narration is always wonderful. Anytime Mark Russell has a heavily narrated book, it's going to be one of my favorites on the shelf. Because he just has great commentary and great storytelling processes. And we get to see the point where his mom just found out, because they wouldn't let him tell anybody he was going. So they just informed his mom now that he's like halfway through space. And he had a conversation with his mom about leaving and being there and how he's not going to come back. So that was a really beautiful moment. And then he's got these little robot buddies who have never met a human before. So he's having fun times kind of getting them introduced to human culture and things. It's a fun adventure that, you know, we don't really know where it's going to go, but we're told it's not going to go very well for him. And I'm curious to see how it plays out. Traveling to Mars, fantastic read. You should definitely grab it. Up next from Ahoy Comics. I was like, where am I at? We are at issue 2, volume 2 of, this is issue 2, right? Yeah, issue 2, volume 2 of My Bad. Also Mark Russell. Also amazing. If you didn't read volume 1 of My Bad, it is 3 stories in every issue about a superhero universe that is made of utter ridiculousness. It follows primarily the Chandelier, who is basically your Bruce Wayne, but he's the heir to a chandelier fortune, and he wears a giant chandelier on his head. He's a superhero. He's kind of like your Adam West Batman, and at the end of volume 1, he retires, but now he is out of retirement because there is a murderer who is trying to murder all the superheroes by delivering pizzas to them, but he keeps getting it wrong. So he ends up at one point killing somebody named here it is, the Supperman's. He goes to the Supperman's house thinking it's Superman and kills them, trying to kill Superman. And he always is just kind of like one letter off on everything. And so they are trying to solve this mystery, and they are doing a poor job. We also have the second story, which is following the Accelerator, who was killed in volume 1, is following his wife as she tries to figure out who she should be suing and who she should go after and all of that. So we get a really cool story there. And then the last story follows Emperor King, who is the villain from volume 1, who ended up becoming best friends with Rush Hour, who is a low-level superhero. And now he wants to date people, but he can't find anybody he wants to date, so he ends up on a superhero dating site. So he has to pretend to be a superhero, and he is on a date with Good Karen, who is a Karen who's trying to use her powers for good. And he is pretending to be a superhero the whole time so that he can impress her. And in this issue, things go really, really wrong instead of just kind of wrong. This is one of the most hilarious books. You have to check it out. Grab volume 1 if you didn't read it, but even if you didn't, you're not going to be lost if you read volume 2, because they're kind of new stories for those characters. So, My Bad. Read it. It's fantastic. Up next, also issue 2, because we're still on those, from Image Comics, we have issue 2 of Plush. This is from the same team that brought us Plastic and Vinyl. Now we're going Plush. And it is the story of a boy he finds out his girlfriend is cheating on him, and his best friend tells him that he should get over it by going to a furry convention with him. And at said convention, when he ends up running into the alley, he sees a bunch of furries being cannibals. And he's like, I don't think this is right. And he tries to run away and get help from the police, but he only finds the person that his fiance is cheating on him with, and they arrest him, send him to jail. And now these cannibalistic furries have shown up to help him get out of jail and are offering him the chance to escape all of the sadness of his life if he just wants to join them on their journey. This book is ridiculous, and yet so was Vinyl when it started, and I cried by the end of Vinyl. So just know that no matter how ridiculous this gets, it's probably also going to break your heart in some capacity. So read Plush. It's going to be great. Also, issue 2 of It's Only Teenage Wasteland from Dark Horse Comics. When we talked about issue 1, I said this was crazy because it started out as a slice of life story, and then suddenly at the end of the book, we were in this apocalyptic wasteland, and we had no idea how we got there. Now we pick up with the team of characters, and we're still in this apocalyptic wasteland, and they still don't know how they got there, so I can't tell you either. But they are in their own hometown, and everything is gone except for a Shell gas station. And so they're kind of living in this gas station. All the food's still there. Everything's fine. All the electricity works there. Like, it's like the only place that things are working. So they've been hanging out and building their new lives in this gas station. And one of their friends decides that he needs to go into the city and figure out if his father is still alive. And so they are going on an adventure to navigate their way through the city to where his dad might be. And we're kind of just getting these two teenage boys figuring out themselves and the situation while we're traveling through this wasteland. We have no idea what's going on. I feel like it's going to end up being some kind of allegory for the fact that all teenagers feel lost in wherever they are, and nothing feels like it's going anywhere ever. But I am curious to see if they make it out of this wasteland alive. So, issue 2 of 4, so we don't have much further to go. And lastly, in our issue 2s, we have issue 2 of Voyages from Image Comics. This is the spaciest space story that I'm reading right now, but this is a story of a young alien, I guess I should say, who is kind of living their adventures. And I love this because we start out in this junkyard and we're kind of just like digging through stuff and finding things, and it's kind of cool. But this is, I love this. Is that a plant? I've never seen one. And then there's a cat, and we find out that that's all actually just a dream, and this alien character is kind of having these dreams that are leading them to a certain destination and kind of figuring out what's going on in the world, because the world outside is, in this disruptive nature. There's kind of a war-ish situation going on. They're lost, they're confused, and so as they have these dreams, they keep interacting with this cat. I'm here for the cat. The cat is great. I also love that the dream world looks lighter. Like, it's kind of, the coloring is done in a lighter situation, which we have one person working on all the creativity, like they're doing the writing and the lettering and the art and everything. But the art coloring, what I love about it is that they use two different color palettes for the dreams versus the regular stuff. But anyway, we've got a black hole situation. Like, they tell us the history of how we ended up in this world and how the world works in one double page spread in this issue, which I thought was really cool way to do that. And then kind of, this is where we are now. And so this adventure is about to get bigger. Like, I feel like we've kind of just had a taste of what this world is, and now we're actually going to go out into it and explore it. So if you are interested in sci-fi books, honestly, if you like Saga, this is another very heavily character-driven book in a spacey environment, so where the space itself hasn't played near as much of a role as the characters have. So if you're a fan of Saga, this is another great book for you to start checking out, and it's only on issue 2. All right, we got some books that ended this week. Let's see. I'm going to start with this one. From Red 5, we have Mystery Brothers, issue 4 of 4. We've been following this one. This one seems like it's come out really, really fast. Like, I think issue 1 came out and then 2 came out the next week, and now we're already on 4 like a month later or so. But this is the story of a young boy whose parents are divorced, and he never gets to go spend any time with his dad. And he finally does, and he finds out that his dad has another kid. And he is also the same age as him. He has no idea where this kid came from. We don't really know for several of the issues. But on top of that, Dad works for a company that has an evil Mr. Prophet in charge, and they have been designing robots for the home, and those robots are about to be released on everybody, and they are dangerous and violent. And so these two boys are working together to kind of solve the problem and save the day, and we get a solution and a wrap-up in this book that kind of just brings us to a new place for these two brothers and for the characters, and kind of just rewrites everything. We kind of do a turn back time situation to get us a chance to build a new world that's better for everybody. So it's really cute. This one's a good one to share with younger readers. It follows these two young boys, and it stays in that like middle grade level adventure the whole time. So if you're looking for a comic that you can give to young readers that are in that age range, especially like a 9 to 12-year-old kiddo, this is going to be a good one for them. I'm going to take a drink really fast because I didn't before I start talking about this, and I'm sad. All right. Sweet, sweet, sweet. Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to decide if I want to save this for the end. I think I do. Okay. Also, ending this week, we have issue 5 of True Cult from IDW's original imprint. This is another book that has been fantastic, and also another one of those books where if you're like, I don't want to read a lot of words, you're going to be overwhelmed when you open it up. As somebody who loves a lot of words in my comic books, I love this book. This is a story of a guy who works at a fast food restaurant who gets abducted while doing an interview for a new employee by a cult who want him to take out their evil ruler so that they can take over the cult. And he has been on this mission to do that with the new employee for the last 4 issues, and in this one they've now taken care of whatever they were going to do. I'm not going to tell you what they end up doing. And they are working their way back to work, and it's funny because their manager has come. Their manager has come to save them, and so you just get this whole fast food crew working together to solve this problem. And I love the wrap up of this book. I love the way they talk to each other. It's so very realistic on the manager and / best friend and our main character, because they're talk to each other so perfectly. It's very natural. But I love that the girl that they hire is obsessed with the restaurant industry, and specifically the place that they work. She's like loved it and wanted to be there her whole life, and so does our main character. So the two of them, when they talk, they just go in these long diatribes about the burgers, and so they're supposed to be doing this investigation and this mission, and the whole time they're just talking about all the like ingredients that they would put on this burger and what that burger should taste like and how it should be cooked and everything. And I'm like, I love that we're just talking about cheeseburgers. Like this whole issue, like issue 3 was just them like walking to basically the gates of hell talking about cheeseburgers. And I'm like, this is my kind of book. We're doing a great job here. So if you didn't read it, it's hilarious. It falls into like some of those like Mark Russell type books and stuff too, where it's got just this great storytelling ability, and it's just kind of people walking around a lot of the time, and then some action happens, and then they're like, okay, that action happened, cool. Like back to the thing we were talking about, and they just kind of keep going. It almost feels like if you had an action movie version of Seinfeld, where they're just a couple people standing around talking about stuff while action is happening around them. From Scout Comics, we have issue 3 of She Bites. This is technically the end of volume 1. Didn't know we were only getting 3 issues. Didn't know we would get more. Very excited we're getting more because I'm obsessed with these characters now. 3 issues in. I think they're hilarious. I want them to give me all of the volumes. Like, let's just like go like forever just watching these two on their hilarious hijinks. But this is the story of a vampire who is trapped in the body of, we'll say, a 9-year-old girl, maybe 10-year-old. And she's been that way for hundreds of years, and she lives in the modern world, and she realizes she can't do anything. She can't buy alcohol, she can't drink, she can't smoke, she can't go to R-rated movies. So she decides to hire a babysitter, and she hires a girl who is the uncoolest person in her class and is just kind of in need of somebody to give her guidance. And in this issue, they go to the mall. I guess in the last issue, they went to the mall, and they were trying to find some cool clothes and do stuff, and the school popular girl comes, and she starts making fun of the babysitter, and our vampire decides to take matters into her own hands. And you think we're going one direction, we go a completely different direction. I love these two. Their banter and the way they play together is so great. If you didn't read She Bites, grab all 3 issues, read it immediately. It's hilarious. You're going to love it. And now that I know that there's even more coming from these characters, I hope we don't have to wait too long for a volume 2, because I'm going to miss them. So give me more, Scout. I can't wait. They're hilarious. From AWA Upshot, we've got issue 5 of Sacrament. Earlier this week, somebody came in and got their books on Wednesday, and then by the weekend they were like, "Hey Shannon, did you read Sacrament yet? Did you read the ending?" And I was like, "No." And they were like, "You want me to tell you what happened?" And then they laughed, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna cry. Please don't do that." This is one of those books I could not wait for the ending, so I'm glad to see that it was not spoiled, and I'm gonna do my best to not spoil it for you. But this is the story of a priest who is in the future, and in the future we've gone to space, and we are not there's no belief in God anymore. For most part, it's like illegal to believe in God and to perform any religious rites. But we get a man who is a scientist on one of the ships who is possessed by a demon, and they try everything they can scientifically, and they can't get it to stop, so they have to call in a priest, and him and his assistant come out to do an exorcism. And of course, just like any exorcist movie, he's a priest who doesn't really believe anymore. He doesn't really have the power he needs, and things go incredibly bad, and then they get worse, and then the demon does demon things, and it's really good. And so if you haven't read it yet, I'm not going to tell you anything else because I don't want to spoil it for you. But if you are fans of exorcism movies or religious conversations, or just really good storytelling, you should check out Sacrament. That's Peter Milligan. He always does a great job. From Red 5, we have issue 4 of August, Purgatory Underground. This is the story of a secret, not a secret agent, an actual agent, who was this is kind of like your Strange Adventures. This is Adam Strange kind of situation. He was a part of a war. He was named a hero. He doesn't really agree with the things he did. And now in this story, he is supposed to be on a mission to kind of stop a rebellion that's uprising. But then he gets there and he realizes he agrees with the rebels more than he agrees with the people he's working with. And so this is him. This is a culmination of all of that. This is him kind of getting into a battle with the people who are on that planet, who are hurting the rebels and working with the rebels, and kind of coming to terms with where he wants to be and who he wants to be as he does all that. And so this actual issue is just the entire issue is that big fight that comes at the end of a movie. But he talks through the whole thing, and he tells you his story, and he has emotional growth and development while he's doing all of that. So it's a really cool way to actually move the story forward while a fight is happening, and then we get the wrap-up at the end. So I love this quote on the back that they pulled. It says, "If it's the last thing I do, and it may well be, I'm going to knock that smile off his ugly cyborg face." I was like, that just sounds so action movie. I feel like I should have read it in Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice. From Dark Horse Comics, we have issue 4 of The Roadie. This has been such a great story about a guy who found out that he had a daughter with a demon. And he is known as the greatest roadie in rock and roll. He's been traveling around with Christian Mass forever, who is on the Massacre tour. And he finds out that he has a daughter with this demon, and now the devil's wife is coming for her because she thinks that the demon had a child with the devil and that it's his kid, and she's mad about it. And so all these demons are trying to chase down this man's daughter, and he is fighting to keep her safe. And it's just a classic fun story. And things get crazy and crazier, and these two have to kind of come to terms with each other. It's like a buddy cop movie, but with demons and the devil. And music. And I love it because he is a rock and roll, like a heavy metal roadie, and has always played rock and roll, and his daughter is only into rap. And so the whole time he's like, well, I mean, I can't fault you for your musical taste, I guess, but like maybe we could work on it. like, we could come together. We'll find a middle ground. And so the whole thing feels just like a daughter and his dad having one of those generational conversations, but they're also running from demons. So it's a fun book, 4 issues. It's Dark Horse. There'll probably be a hardcover coming out if you're into hardcovers. And also from Dark Horse, finally, issue 4 of Breakout. This book came out forever ago, and we talked about it on the live stream. I think it was a pick of the week. The issue 1 came out, and then was a favorite for all of those other issues. This is basically a teenage version of Ocean's 11 with aliens. There is a bunch of aliens that have come and taken over Earth, and the way they do it is they have these spaceships floating in the air. And they are picking up kids and putting them in there, and they're kind of mining the energy from the children. And a teenage boy's brother gets taken, and he decides he's going to do a heist to get his brother back, and you get your whole Ocean's 11 crew story. You get them training for everything. You get the plan. You get on there. The plan goes to plan and not to plan in all the different places. And this is the finale where we are trying to figure out how to get out of the ship that we're on and how we're going to get everybody home. Because, of course, in the end, they can't just save the one friend they went for. They got to save everybody. And it's so great. It was such a good wrap-up to the series. I've been waiting so long for this, and I don't feel disappointed for my wait on this issue at all. This was so good. If they made a volume 2, I would be 100% in if they find a way to do more, because it was, like, it's great. I mean, I could read this story for a couple more volumes if I needed to, kind of like a kaiju score kind of thing where we just pick up a new mission with the same crew. I'd be in for that. This was great. Does have some really emotional moments in it. If you like heist kind of stories, you're going to love this one. So read Breakout. Lastly, for my endings, we have issue 4 of Stuff of Nightmares from Boom Studios. This may not be the end. This may just be the end of this volume, but this story wrapped it perfectly. So we'll see what R.L. Stine chooses to do going forward. But this particular volume was all about a pair of brothers who were trying to play Frankenstein. They had created life, and they created a young monster that they called Frank. And then the 2 brothers created a bunch of zombie-type creatures who they had to get away from. So they end up back in their childhood abandoned home, or abandoned home down the street from their childhood home. Either way, they end up back there, and they get in a fight. Things happen. We get more Frankensteining. Then we get more Frankensteining and more Frankensteining and bad things happening. And we end up coming to a monstrous head in this story. And we learn that you can't play God. And if you try, you wake up with the Stuff of Nightmares. This was great. So much wonderful R.L. Stine. Like, this is, if you read Goosebumps as a kid, and then you read Fear Street as an adult, or as a teenager, this is your adult. Stuff of Nightmares is your adult that goes in that line. It feels exactly like that kind of reading, but for adults. It's fantastic. R.L. Stine fans, do not sleep on the Stuff of Nightmares, because this is for you. Oh, thank you, sir. Look at that. You get to the end of a section and somebody pours you a glass of wine. What a great job. And it's Saddlebred Cellars, which is a Pinot Noir, and it's delicious. Again, cherry, strawberry. Also says it has floral notes in it. I don't eat a lot of flowers, so I'm never really sure what that's supposed to smell or taste like.
You don't smell flowers?
I kind of smell flowers.
I mean, in life.
Oh, I mean, I smell flowers, yes.
Yeah, so you'd be able to smell.
I can smell, yeah.
Floral.
Mm-hmm. I definitely have smelled flowers before. It smells like strawberries. It tastes like strawberries. It's just strawberries. All right, we have a lot of number 1s that came out in the last couple weeks. So I'm going to get you hooked up with all the series that you need to start checking out immediately because they just started. Up first from Scout Comics, this is a nonstop comic for them. So this is going to be issue 1, and then it's going to go into a trade format. So if you picked up issue 1 already and you're intrigued, let us know so we can order you a collection, the graphic novel, I guess I should say, since it's not collecting issues. Or if you haven't picked it up and you want to know what it's about and you want to grab this issue to check it out, or if you want to go straight to a trade, just let us know. But this is the story of a young girl who lives on a spacecraft, and she has her best friend who is her space partner, who is a hippo in a spacesuit. I could really stop there, and that would be all you'd probably need to know that this book is adorably fantastic. But I'm going to go even further. They land on a planet. They're trying to do a mission. Planet is overrun by dinosaurs. And she's one of those people who doesn't listen to any of the direction. You're a classic, like, teenage girl who thinks she knows everything in a story, and she's constantly like, ooh, this is fun. But then she gets chased by a T-Rex and followed by pterodactyls or pterodons. I'm not really sure. And so you get that fun space adventure. You get the adventure of going against the different creatures, specifically dinosaurs, and you get a hippo sidekick. This is just going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a great book for that middle grade, young adult kind of time period. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of heartache and sadness, and if anything happens to the hippo, I'll cry. But it's fun. Junior, check it out. Like I said, you can read issue 1 to find out if it's something you're interested in, and then you're going to have a whole graphic novel to jump into right after that. Or you can just head straight into the graphic novel if you were like, yes, I do want to go to space with a hippo. You're correct, Shannon, which you probably do. Up next from, I don't know, Band of Bards. Band of Bards, that's our publisher. This is Prospects. Their hashtag is comics doing good. So I think I need to look up more about Band of Bards, because that's their tagline for their company. But this is Prospects. This actually kind of feels like a Kyle Starks book as well. But it is the story of a guy who lives, who can't make a decision. I just love this, the starting point. He can't make a decision. This is your lovable loser 100%. He's like, I got to pick between like milk and chocolate milk and this regular things. Like, I think he's trying to choose between milk and vodka. Chocolate milk and vodka. That's what it is. And he's like, I don't know, maybe I'll just buy both and mix them together. Like, that can't be terrible. Just classic lovable loser hijinks that come from then on. He goes home. He lives in his mother's basement. She's like, oh, your father would be so disappointed in you. Your life is terrible. And he's like, I don't think so. I think my dad would be proud-ish. And then we jump to this other character, which I think might even be him in the past. I'd have to double check. It's been weeks since I read this. But no, and this is, no, it's another guy, and maybe? I still don't remember. Anyway, he's like trying to figure out, he's also trying to choose, but I love that we start with the same thing. We go back in the past and he's like, oh, I'm trying to choose. Anyway, this kid is having to choose between two girls, has some fights with his mom, see that he's kind of this lovable loser as well, getting chased by all these people, and then we flash back to the future where he's like, oh, I fell asleep drinking my vodka and chocolate milk, and I've got nothing going on. And then all of it ends up being that there is possibly some robots or some space aliens or some creatures of some sort who are taking over and doing terrible things. And he's like, I hate this place. I hate it. So we know wherever he is, he's going to end up having to go against some of these creatures or monsters, or probably becoming some kind of hero in the future. But in this particular issue, we just get the setup of who this character is, and I kind of love that we already know he's bad at making choices. He just wants to like live his life hiding away from everything else, and definitely is never going to choose to do all the hard work. But I have a feeling we're going to find a hero who has no choice but to do that. Issue 2 of The Unwanted and issue 1 of The Unwanted both came out in the last couple weeks. Issue 1 was last week. Issue 2 was this week. And they are also from a new publisher. So let me put one of them down so I can see. The publisher is Dren Productions. D-R-E-N. Dren Productions is the name of the publisher. Another one I haven't heard of. And this is the first, obviously, this is the first book that I've seen from them. And, I mean, looking at the back, I'm like, I've never heard of any of these other ones, but they kind of seem like parody books. But this is the story of a bunch of teenagers. It kind of feels like the 100, situation if you read the young adult novel or saw that TV show, but it's a bunch of teenagers who are dropped on an island. They come on a boat. They're from some kind of unit where they're all trained in different capacities. Kind of almost feels like a Divergent, like, oh, your job is to do this and your job is to do that. And so the first group that we see, they're all dropped there. They don't know why they're there. They don't know how they got there. They woke up on this boat as it was landing on this island. And they all have to come together to figure out how to work together to survive on this island. Meanwhile, they run into another group of kids who are living on the other side of the island, and they don't know how they got there. They don't know what's going on either. All of this stuff is happening, and then at the same time, we find out in this issue, in issue 2, that there might be even more groups of teenagers, and they may all be from different groups amongst the original society. They may not be. They're all kind of convinced that there's some reason that the country doesn't want them there. But we see that there is some kind of government organization kind of structuring this in a very Hunger Games-esque kind of way in issue 2. And so they're kind of mitigating where these people are going and what they're going to do and what they're going to be able to find. So we may have a Hunger Games situation on our hands. We may have like like I said, a 100 where a group of teenagers are stuck in this one spot to kind of be the test subjects for whether or not they can save the world. We still don't know. We're kind of learning it as they're learning it with just a little bit of extra information, but I'm really curious to see where this goes. I love these concepts, and I like the characters we have so far. Like, we have the one kid who's like, I'm going to be the leader. You've got the one kid who's like, everything is a trap from the government. Don't believe any of it. You got your followers. You got your people who are trying to believe in different things, and like your super killers and stuff like that. So there's a lot of really good characters, and I already feel like I know each and every one of them. It almost has like the same way the Camp Cretaceous characters felt, where I was like instantly I knew who everybody was and what almost trope that they fit into, but then I also felt emotionally like they could grow really well. These characters have that same kind of capacity, and I'm really curious to see where this goes. And the fact that we have 2 issues already and both of them are really good, I'm intrigued. From IDW Original, we have issue 1 of Dead Seas. I have loved every IDW Original we've had so far, so I'm really excited that we have another one out already, and I cannot wait to see where this goes. This is a story of a man who is a prisoner, and he is selected to go to earn a way out of his sentence quicker by going to work on this ship. And on this ship, they are basically taking ghosts there and containing them. So it's like the big containment unit on Ghostbusters, but it's all on a ship. And they say if you survive that, you can get out of your sentence like way, way faster. So he goes to work there, and he thinks it's going to be fine, and he meets a person immediately who's like, oh, I've been here forever. They're never going to let us off. Also, ghosts are real, and it's terrifying, and bad things happen to you when you work here. People go crazy. And his first moment, he is stuck in a room with this very large ghost that he's not supposed to be in the room with. Things go wrong. We might have a pirate situation coming up where some people are going to try to take over the ship. This is going to get really bad really quickly, and I'm here for all of it. So I am super excited to see where Dead Seas goes. IDW Originals has not disappointed me yet. I'm sure we're going to have something incredible coming out of whatever the next few books from them are, just because that first wave was so good. So pick it up. I'm sure I'm already in after issue 1, and I want to know where it's going. From Scout Comics, we have Dark Land, issue 1. Oh, it has that nice Scout cover. I just love the way their, like, crushed covers feel. It's so good. This is a story of a young girl who is being hunted down by the world's greatest assassin, essentially. She's put to work as a bounty hunter to find this young girl. We don't really know why. There's something that makes the government want this young girl. Meanwhile, we get to see the young girl, and she's living on her own. She's kind of dealing her own life. She's got a cat in a backpack. She's cool. And she meets a young boy who gets hurt on her property where she's been hiding out, and she kind of has to help him. And so they end up possibly teaming up together. So now we've got a bounty hunter after her. We've got her with a young boy who seems like he's supposed to be some kind of soldier but is lost. And then on top of that, we find out that there is a group of resistance fighters who the young girl's mother might have been a part of. And the resistance fighters aren't working together anymore, but now that they find out that the young girl is in danger, they might get the gang back together and try to save this young girl. So we've got a lot of people going after the same person who has no idea that anybody is coming for her. And we're going to see who gets there first. I love these books from Scout. I think Scout has some great storytellers who just do a really good job of adventure. And I think this is going to be another one of those where issues 2 and 3 were like, oh man, how did they already get here and where are we going? This is going to be another fun one. And I love that our bounty hunter, our main girl, and our resistance fighter are all kind of these really cool female characters who are all really strong and powerful, and everybody knows they're the best at what they do. So it's going to be a really cool team up of all of these girls, I think, eventually. So I'm in for Darkland. Ghost Planet, issue 1. This is actually a one-shot. It's not even an issue 1. This is a story of a young girl who her dad, her brother, and her sister-in-law are all traveling through space, and they end up finding a planet that they're going to land on, and they land on this planet, and things get really, really weird really fast. Something happens. The brother is attacked by a boar. He kind of loses his mind and ends up wandering out, and something bad happens to him. At the same time, his fiance also kind of has some super crazy stuff happen to her after an interaction and wanders off into space. They're trying to figure out how to save themselves, so the dad ends up going out after them, and some crazy stuff happens to him. And this girl kind of has to piece it all together on her own and figure out where everything's going. It just gets crazier and crazier as it goes along. It's one shot. Just get it and read it. It's $5.99. You get the whole story, and it's great. And I love the colors that they use. I love the storytelling, and I love the ending. The ending, I was like, oh, dude, that's cool. So if you haven't read this, Ghost Planet came out, I believe it was actually last week. It's a great one-shot from Scout. You should grab it. It's so good. From Source Point, we have another one-shot, which is The Curse of Cleaver County. And I really hope that this isn't a one-shot. I kind of want to see more of Cleaver County and the things that are going on there. I kind of thought it was going to be an anthology, and we would see a couple of different books. So I'm hoping that maybe that is the case in the end. But this particular one, the first story, shows us a couple who's out and about at night, and of course the guy is like, ooh, let me tell you a ghost story, and he starts telling his girlfriend about the hooked horror of Harlow and how he goes after people and he kills them with his hook, you know, classic like I know what you did last summer kind of story. And just like in one of those, the second he stops telling the story, we get attacked by that very creature, and you get the running and all of the crazy stuff. And then the second story in the book is about a guy from the Cleaver County who decided to get some demon possession going on and decided to go after all of the people who had ever wronged him with the help of some demons. And, you know, he just is living his best demonic life in this issue. So it's 2 horror stories, completely unconnected, just about the crazy people in Cleaver County. I hope we see some more. Like I said, it does say it's a one-shot, but I'm going to, you know, hope for the best that maybe if enough people enjoyed it, we'll get some more from Cleaver County, because it's got some good horror, and I think Source Point could use their own horror anthology to keep telling some stories. And everybody's got a horror anthology right now. I feel like Source Point should too. From Scout Comics, we've got The Bones of the Gods. This is the first issue in a new story about a young girl whose dad is a veteran of a war in a fairy tale universe. You know, they had some gods, they fought some magical creatures. And so the dad is like, hey, you can't go out. You gotta stay home. You can't be a part of anything ever. I need to know where you are at all times. We live here. We're never going to be a part of any of those crazy things that this town has going on. And he sends her at the very beginning to town to get some stuff. And while she's there, she meets up with her friends, and they decide to hang out, and they watch some plays about the history, which I love. I love when we get the little puppet play kind of thing to tell us. I think it might be an actual play. But we get a play to tell us the backstory of what happened with the war and the gods, and then that's kind of how we find out that her dad was a big part of it. And then she shows up back home later than she's supposed to, gets in trouble with her dad, all the things. And we find out a little bit more about the war and how the bones of the gods have been spread throughout the world. And whoever finds the bones will have the powers of the gods. And all leading up to the fact that this is issue 1, and things are going to happen for sure as we keep going with this story. I can't wait. I hope she gets magical powers. I hope she has that kind of adventure. I hope it's wonderful. I can't wait to see how cool she is when we get into issue 2, because I already like this character and her adventurous spirit, and I know that it's going to go all of the places that I want to, and it's not a nonstop, so we're actually going to get this in issue form. I'm very excited. It is Scout, so there's usually a little bit of a delay between issues 1 and issue 2 to give you time to jump in. So if you didn't grab it last week, there's still time. You're not going to get this and then have an issue 2 next week. You're going to have some time to actually read it and decide if you like it before it's too late to order it. I'm going to take a drink because I have a couple more number 1s. All right. Also from Scout, I think we have like 3 or 4 Scouts in a row, is issue 1 of Road Trip to Hell. I'm very excited about this book. It's going to be so ridiculous, and I don't care. I love it so much. It is the story of a young boy who, it's kind of just him and his sister is sick. I believe she has cancer. She's in the hospital, and he's kind of trying to live his life on his own and still take care of her. And he goes home from visiting her at the hospital, and when he gets home, see if I can find the exact page that I need to find. Yeah, he gets home, and Baphomet's there. And Baphomet's like, hey, guess what? Don't know if anybody ever told you this, but your father's actually Satan. And Satan's dead. So, looks like you're the ruler of hell now. And he's like, what? He goes, oh, but by the way, I thought that was boring. So, I told everybody that if they killed you, that you're the only heir of Satan, so they could take over hell. So, you have to get to the gates of hell before this date, and if you don't make it there in time, or somebody kills you along the way, well, sucks to suck, my dude. And so this kid is now forced to get to the gates of hell before he is murdered by any number of assassins or demons that Baphomet has unleashed in that. And he gets a special helper to come help him get to the gates of hell and protect him along the way, who thinks he will be a great partner to God. God ruling heaven, wouldn't it be great if we had like a decent human who ruled hell, is kind of the philosophy. So God sends somebody to help him get to hell. It's going to be utterly ridiculous, and I am 100% in for a horror-themed comedy story that, like, will fit in that, Shaun of the Dead, like, kind of Cornetto trilogy, humorous horror stories. I can't wait. It's Scout. It's going to be great. It's going to be ridiculous. I'm in. Let's see how it plays out. It kind of almost feels Bill and Ted-ish at the same time. So, still, it's great. Also, Scout, Category 0, Conflict, Issue 1. This is our superhero kind of story from Scout that is getting added in. It kind of feels a little like the Resistance from AWA, where we have some people who suddenly develop superpowers. The government is trying to control that, and it might also be their fault. There is a new vaccine that they create, and a blood testing or something that they're doing, and basically they end up causing all of these experiments to create some superheroes. And of course, with superheroes come supervillains, and now the government's trying to spin it that all of them are the bad guys, and they need to be picked up by this facility that kind of started all of this trouble in the first place. And they're trying to orchestrate getting all of the superpowered people wrangled up right now. And we have a group of people who are going to have their own little rebellion, and they're trying to get away. And you never know who you can trust. You never know who you can't trust. inside your group and outside of your group. It's the classic story right now that we're seeing from a lot of those independent versions of superhero stories. People get powers, government tries to regulate those people with powers try to run from regulations, bad things happen on all sides of the fence. Can't trust good guys, can't trust bad guys. This is the start of it. Not nonstop, so you're going to get issues for it. If you are enjoying any of those kinds of stories, this is a new one for you to jump into right here. Impossible Jones. Naughty or Nice is the holiday special for Impossible Jones, and I love Impossible Jones. I think Impossible Jones got completely missed by way too many people. If you don't know Impossible Jones, she was a thief who was doing a gig. She was trying to break into a vault, ended up getting superpowers, and they're kind of like stretch superpowers. She can do all kinds of stuff. She's almost like rubber. She ends up just kind of masquerading as a superhero to get out of getting caught by the superheroes when she was robbing places, and now she's kind of an anti-hero. She's kind of a hero, works every day that way, but if something comes up, she might be involved with it. And in this particular issue, that's exactly the case. She is trying to steal some classic Christmas dolls that are on display, some puppets. They might be like the claymation originals. And she gets asked to help stop a supervillain who is like a Christmas version of Harley Quinn, essentially. And it's the cutest story because at the end, it's just about bringing Christmas to everybody. And it's so cute, and I love it. And Impossible Jones has a wonderful moment at the end where she just gets a warm, feel-good moment in the middle of the snow. It's great. And I'm obsessed with this new Christmas character, and I hope we get to see her a lot more in the story. But we also get an Even Steven story, who is another not hero, not villain necessarily in this universe. He believes that everything has to be even at all times. And he is trying to do his own mission at the time, and goes really quickly through his story, and it kind of connects his story to Impossible Jones' story very fast. I like Even Steven as a character. I like the way he always brings a balance to whatever's going on in the superhero universe. And again, Impossible Jones, one of my favorite superheroes right now. And not really very heroic, but I love her. She would do great for a crossover into the My Bad universe. It would be fantastic. But if you've never read any Impossible Jones, this one-shot is a great way to kind of just figure out who these characters are while also having a nice, cute, Christmassy moment. Also Scout. Oh my gosh, okay, so most of these are just Scout. Also Scout, but technically Scoot, the kids' imprint. We had a non-stop issue 1, which most of the kids' Scoot titles are, and it's Mortimer the Lazy Bird. This is adorable. I'm a really big fan of Owlie, the kids book, and this kind of has a lot of Owlie feels to me, so I was really excited about it. This is the story of Mortimer, who is a bird, obviously, and he doesn't know how to fly. He doesn't go looking for worms. He doesn't do anything, and his parents are kind of disappointed that he can't do anything that they think he should be able to do by his age, and they're having a conversation about it, and Mortimer hears the whole thing. So Mortimer decides the best thing he could do is run away and learn and not come back until he learns how to be the kind of bird that his parents think he should be. And so he ends up going to the big city on accident because he's following a helicopter and some other things that he thinks are other birds, and he ends up making friends with a worm. And of course the worm is like, oh, you're gonna eat me, and he's like, no, why would I eat you? Like, I don't do that. Like, I'm just trying to learn how to fly. I just want people to like me. And they become friends, and the worm's like, I'm gonna teach you about the city. You can't live here and be the kind of bird you are. We gotta get you tough. We gotta get you on the thing. It's super duper cute. I cannot wait for the non-stop version of this. For that graphic novel, because I need to read the whole thing. It's going to be adorable. Like I said, if you have kiddos who are fans of Owlie, this is going to be another great one for them. If you're an adult like me who's a fan of Owlie, the adorable owl who I need to hug at all times, you also probably would really like Mortimer. Also, Scout, my last Scout. Okay, my last Scout number 1. Whew. I could have kept going all night with Scout. It would have been fine with me. This is issue 1 of Red Winter Fallout. This is your classic spy story. It starts out in the Chernobyl area, I believe, And there is a... no, it's in Moscow. It's not in Chernobyl at all. Just kidding. But there is some Russian investigators who find out that there's been a shootout between a bunch of the gangs, and they recognize everybody as members of different gangs, except for one woman who they have no idea who she is. We follow the gang member that got away for a minute as he goes and tries to orchestrate a retaliation or a survival method for himself and his people. We see the other gangs who are trying to cause their conversation. We see a man who we think has may have nothing to do with it, but may have everything to do with it. We kind of follow him for a second. And then we jump to America and we find out who the woman was and her connection to another woman who works as a spy for America. And the mission that she is assigned to go on in order to solve everything that is happening. So if you are a fan of any spy story ever, The Bourne Identities, Mission Impossible, anything like that, this is going to be a great one for you because this is definitely going to be a classic spy story with a cool, strong female character leading the way. So Red Winter, Fallout, check it out. This is also not a nonstop, so you're going to get an issue 2 coming out soon. Also out this week from Rampart Press, another new press we don't see a lot, is War Party, and this is also a wraparound, so I'm going to open it up like this. This is one of the smaller press books that we definitely have on here this week, and this is the story of the War of, the French and American, which war is this? French and Indian War, yeah. Huh? No, this is the 7-Year War. That's really what it was called. So this is France and America fighting essentially, and they are having all of these problems, and we see just the classic opening scene where we have a man who his family is being attacked, so the woman, his wife and his daughter run away. The wife sends the daughter across the creek and is like, you'll be safe if you go over there, wait for the people to come back and save you. And then we hear about the fact that some of these people can possibly take on the spirit of animals, and we might have people fighting this war as animals, and how that's going to connect to this. And so we're kind of seeing just how that's going to play into it very smallly at the end of the story, but we're also kind of following this young girl as she's trying to hide and figuring out how she connects to everything. So we've only had setup so far. We know there's a war going on. We know how that war plays out if you've studied American history. But we are seeing this new twist on it and kind of learning about this. What's cool is, because this is a small press book, what I like is that they actually do a couple of things in the back. One, they tell kind of the legends of skinwalkers. So if you've heard about the myths of people who could take on the spirit of animals by wearing the skin of it, they kind of give you a little bit more of that legend. But they also tell you about all the characters that are going to come to play in the story. And so you get a little bit of backstory about each of the characters and who they are and what they're going to do, just so you can see if this is going to be something that you're interested in. So I like that we are getting that. We also get information about the war and information about the war lands, and maps of the things. So this is giving you all the lore of your book at the back of the book. It's actually, the story ends at the halfway point, at the staple line, and then all of the information about even the information on how they would do the ritual to become the skinwalker or the animal, however you want to view it. It's all in the back. So it's almost like looking at a D&D explanation guide before, you even get your speed, your agility, all of that listed. It's kind of like getting a guide for building your character for the game before you play the game, with a little teaser of what that's going to be about. So, interesting book. I'm curious to see where it goes. We'll see what happens in issue 2. And lastly, one shot, we'll call it a number 1, is Book of Slaughter. I know this is variant a lot of you are looking for, so if you didn't get the Boom Guaranteed variant, let me know. I do still have a couple. But this is Book of Slaughter, and it introduces us to another character who lives in the House of Slaughter. And what was that?
A one-shot?
It is a one-shot. And this is, if you are fans of Something It's Killing the Children in House of Slaughter, this is a companion that you're going to want, because not only does it give us a new character and talk about this character's relationship to Erica and Aaron and everybody that you've heard of in the Slaughterverse so far, but it also talks about how many Black Masks we have at the House of Slaughter now, where we are, like where we stand and how many they're supposed to have. And then we actually see this character go read their particular Book of Slaughter, like all the information that we should have. And I like it because some of it is just kind of a recap. Like it tells us about how they select people and where you get your totem from and what a totem is. And it kind of gives you all this backstory that if you pieced it together while reading all the different volumes of Something is Killing the Children, great. But if you didn't, like, it's like, hey, here you go. Here's the information on, like, how they become members. Here's the different information on the mask. Here's what they mean. Here's how many there should be. Here's how that goes. It just goes in so much depth. And all of that's been in Tynion's story so far. But we don't know it necessarily. Like, we've never had this map that shows us where all the different houses are and what all of the different houses function as. And we learn about the Council of Elders. We learn about the dragons, both mythical and like ruling. So you learn a lot of information about the lore of this book, which means James Tynion and his crew across the Slaughterverse are about to go really hard into this story. And expect us to kind of follow along without giving any more information. They're going to be like, hey, reference back to that book you read. And I love it because we are following a character who's reading it, but then they just give us the pages straight out of it. And then we're going to see this character, I think, in some really big ways. So if you didn't read Book of Slaughter and you're a Something is Killing the Children House of Slaughter reader, you're going to be lost. So grab a Book of Slaughter, read it, study it, memorize it, get ready, because anytime James Tynion gives us a big info dump, means James Tynion's about to blow up his world in a whole new way. So whatever the next volume of Something is Killing the Children is after this, or House of Slaughter, I think we're going to see some crazy changes. I've had some fan speculation theories from the beginning of Something is Killing the Children that reading this book, I was like, oh man, I think some of my things might come to be true, and some of my things are completely out of the water now. So I'm happy to see the things that I'm hoping for, some of them still being in play. And I'd love to hear all of your fan theories about Something is Killing the Children and where it's going anytime. So comment them or shoot me messages. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to talk about it all the time. Okay, we got some picks. It's been 2 weeks, so I've got a lot of picks, but I don't need to talk about all of them in as much detail as some of them, so we're going to go through them as quickly as I can. Up first is from Image Comics. We have issue 2 of Chroma. I still think this book is beautiful. I'm going to keep bringing it just because I think it's beautiful, but this is the story of a world where everything has been in black and white. And issue 1 is done entirely in grayscale. Because of that, they have blocked out color from their world because they think that there is the king who is going to kill them all and who has evil creatures that are coming and hunting down any sort of color. And in issue 1, we meet the monster, as they call her, who needs to be sacrificed. And we didn't get a sacrifice the way that we usually do, and now we are getting an adventure that actually follows the young girl as she falls into the colorful side of the earth and learns a lot about herself, about the world, about people, about not trusting people and trusting people, and where we are and what is happening in this world very, very quickly. I said this was kind of like The Giver in issue 1, and I stand by the fact that this is definitely one of those books where we're going to learn constantly something new. We're always going to have an incredible cliffhanger. We're always going to have these just like really charged journeys throughout the thing. If you didn't read Chroma issue 1, grab issue 1 and 2 at the same time and just keep going. And honestly, I'm jealous of you for getting to read issue 1 and 2 at the same time if you didn't read issue 1 yet, because waiting that like month and a half that I had to wait for issue 2, if you told me that it took 6 months for Chroma issue 2 to come out after issue 1, I would tell you I believed you, because I felt like I was waiting forever because Chroma 1 was so good that I couldn't wait. It was driving me crazy. I'm jealous if you get to read 1 and 2 at the same time, but I also think you need to hurry up and read 1 and 2 because the book is so good. Another book that I absolutely love from Oni Press is Pink Lemonade. This is issue 4. Honestly, I bring Pink Lemonade as a pick of the week for every issue now because I'm obsessed with it. Whether or not, like, anything, they could have had nothing happen in this issue and I'd still be like, Pink Lemonade is fantastic. I've had people of all ages grab it just because they think the art is so great, and it's so much fun. This is the story of a woman named Pink Lemonade who doesn't really know where she came from. Maybe it's space, maybe it's Earth. She doesn't know. She doesn't remember anything. She just rides around on a little pink motorcycle and wants to learn about the Earth and do good things in it. And she made some friends along the way, a little girl and her mom who are obsessed with OJ Bot, who taught her all about OJ Bot, who's their favorite character. And then she's ended up in some Hollywood pictures, and now she's been fighting with the Hollywood studio that's trying to steal her likeness and make movies using her as a character without her permission and doing things that she wouldn't necessarily agree with. We're doing some investigating into who she is. We're doing some trying to stop that. People learn a lot about themselves in every issue of Pink Lemonade, and I just absolutely love the journey we're going on, and I love the cool art style that we're using and the way they play with the medium in every issue to tell that story. I just think it's fantastic, and it always leaves you with a warm, fuzzy feeling at the end. So if you haven't read Pink Lemonade, jump in. You're not going to regret it. It's a lot of fun, and it's probably one of my favorite Oni Press books. That said, I also have Blink, issue 5. Yes. Okay. This is the last issue of Blink, and it's also from Oni Press. So 2 Oni Press books in your picks of the week this week. This one has been in the picks of the week a lot of the times too, and part of that is just because of the Hayden Sherman art and the great paneling that he has been doing. But this is a story of a girl who also has kind of no idea where she comes from, but she ends up getting a secret message about her past and ends up in this place called Blink, which is a secret underground place that has been working on some experiments and doing some crazy stuff. And she has been trying to fight her way out of Blink ever since she got there. And we're learning a lot about her, but we're also learning about the way the world is controlled, and the belief that technology would make our world better, and yet finding out that it didn't necessarily. We're also learning that Hayden Sherman can come up with some really cool panels along the way. It's so good. It's such a good thriller. You're constantly like, what's going to happen on the next page? You're constantly wanting to figure out like who is doing this and what they're doing and where she falls in the story. You're trying to figure out how it connects to yourself at the same time. Like it's been such a good book. This is definitely one of those books that you kind of think, 2022 is over. It ended in 2022. Where does this fall on my top books kind of list? Because it's such a strongly written story. It's so crazy. It's one of those where I read issue and I'm like, oh man, I kind of want to go back and read all 4 issues before I read issue 5. I wanted to read all 3 issues before I read issue 4 because there's so much to the story, and I cannot wait to go back and reread the whole thing again, and just find all those little details I missed along the way that led to what we get when we get to the end. But if you're looking for a deep story with some cool, crazy art that leads to what we're talking about, I showed it already, but I'm going to show it again. There is a panel up here where they're talking about all of the things that we create on this page, the things that we created that were supposed to make our world bigger and how much smaller it actually made the world, specifically, of course, talking about technology. And the panel starts with this arrow, and it just kind of arrows the bigger the world's supposed to be in the story, the smaller and smaller the arrow gets. And I think that's such a great way to use the medium. Like, that's what comics are about. That's why we have the art and the story, because you can bring that eye line into visualizing exactly what you're trying to make your point about. This is one of those books that understood the assignment. It used comics to the most of its ability, and I love it. From Boom Studios, we have issue 2 of Once Upon a Time at the End of the World from Jason Aaron. I had somebody come in and say, oh my god, like, the Once Upon a Time, like that at the end of the world, that first issue, and I was like, I know, like, I'm not surprised because it's Jason Aaron, but I am surprised at the same time because it was just so good. And this definitely falls like 100% back into that category with issue 2. This is it's the story of a young girl named Mezzy and a young boy named Mace, and they met in issue 1. Mezzy has been, she's a ranger. She wanders this post-apocalyptic world on her own. She's kind of just making her way through it. She's on a mission to somewhere, and we don't know where. In issue 1, she meets Mace, who's lived in a tower his whole life in this post-apocalyptic world, and he's never left, and he's an inventor, and he makes all of these crazy things, and he has the greatest tower ever. I don't know why you would want to leave, but he did for Mezzy, and even though Mezzy did not want him to, and now they're on this adventure together. And I love this issue particularly because Mezzy is like, you don't have the skills to survive, and Mace is like, I have tons of skills, and what skills do you have? And Mezzy spends like 4 pages of like 9-panel pages going over what skills she has. And Mace is like, oh, well, I don't have any of those skills. But I mean, like, I have some skills. none of those. And Mezzy's like, you're not going to survive. And then you see a montage essentially of Mezzy saving Mace's life. And then you kind of see how they can work together. And there's this really, really cute moment towards the end of the story where Mezzy is like, hey, have you ever heard of Christmas? It's a part of the world, like, from before times, and they used to give each other presents, and nobody knows this about me, but I'm secretly obsessed with Christmas, and I wanted to give you a present. And so they have this really beautiful moment, and then we also just see the backstory of the Rangers, what the Rangers are, and how Mezzy connects to that. It's gonna get crazy, but honestly, the narration of the story is what gets me every time. I think Jason Aaron is writing this fantastically beautiful narration, and I could just, you could take out everything else and just tell me the story through the narration, and I would still put this book in a pick of the week because the narration is that good. So if you haven't read Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, this is that typical Boom book that you're like, wow, this is just exactly what I expect from Boom, and exactly what I expect from Jason Aaron. So it's going to be great all the way around. I'm going to take a drink before I talk about these last two. All right. I can't tell you much about this next one because it is the end, but it is issue 5 of Deadliest Bouquet from Image Comics. And this has been a great book the whole way through. This is a story of 3 sisters who are all named after flowers and who have all been trained as assassins by their moms. One mom. They're all sisters. And that's why it's called Deadliest Bouquet, because they are 3 flowers who are trained to be assassins. In issue 1, at the very beginning, we find out that their mom has been murdered. And the 3 sisters come back together for the very first time. And it's kind of almost like a charm situation where the 3 sisters all have their powers and they all hate each other and they all can't really get along. I'm trying so hard because they show you what happened to not show you. They have been trying to solve the mystery of who killed their mom and what happened the entire series. And in this issue, they finally figure it out. And I screamed at the book. I'm not even going to show you anything else. I screamed at the book. The book was fantastic. I did not expect that to be what the murder situation was. And then the book keeps going after that and more stuff happens. And I could not believe the more stuff that happened. And I have a customer her and I have been reading this book together. And we sat there at the counter and screamed at each other without actually ever saying what happened. Like, we had a code for talking about the book and just yelled for like 30 minutes about this book and everything that happened. So bravo, Deadliest Bouquet creative team, for writing a fantastic murder mystery that makes people yell in each other's faces when they get to the end. This was well done. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Read Deadliest Bouquet. It is so good. And now we are going to talk about a book that's going to win all of the Eisner Awards this year. The only non-indie book that I am going to talk about specifically, Wonder Woman Historia. This is the last issue in the 3-issue series. Each issue has taken forever to come out because the art on this is incredibly amazing. Kelly Sue DeConnick wrote this story. It's masterful, and this last year around this time, we had issue 1 come out, and it was Phil Jimenez who did the art, and it was like the most flexing that you could possibly do as an artist. Phil Jimenez just put everything he had into it. And this issue is Nicola Scott, and I would say that she is doing the exact same thing. It's so incredibly gorgeous. I don't even know. We're going to start here because this is fantastic. This is the actual history of the Amazons. We've had a lot of random like little bits here and there throughout the history of Wonder Woman of how the Amazons came together. This story is about 7 tribes of women who are created by the tribes are created to represent the different goddesses of the Greek pantheon that Wonder Woman is a part of. And this is the story of how each of them come together. It's how they become one tribe in the end. And the art on this has been killer. The entire series. It's been so incredibly detailed. And I just, like, oh my god, I'm, like, trying to find the best pages, but also, like, not spoil it for you. Like, look at Hera's clothing the whole time. Like, her peacock designs have been absolutely incredible. Nicola Scott always does such cool art, but this is the best work that she's ever done. And the story alone would be enough to just make you enticed by this, because it's such a cool way to see the Amazons go to war against the gods and to see them all fighting to have their place in this world, and to see these women who are just constantly like, oh, well, men are telling us what to do. And it starts with the goddesses, like, oh, the male gods just tell us what to do. They don't let us have a place in the world. And then it starts with these females who on Earth who feel the same way, and them giving this power by these gods to kind of have, like, goddesses to have their own space. And then it just brings us to this wonderful point where, like, Kelly Sue writes this wonderful thing that says, can you love as the goddesses love? Wait, that's not even where it starts. I think it starts a little bit further back. Yeah, it's like, life is not a maze, not a game that can be won. There is much that is unseen and more that is beyond our control. We do the best we can with what we have, and we leave to the goddesses all the rest. What do we have then? Our lives. Surely not. None of us is promised tomorrow. What is left from which to draw meaning? Only this, our capacity and willingness to love. We are born to die, but also to live and learn and hurt and grow, and all through it to love. To love our lives, our fellows, and when we are very brave, ourselves. Can you love as the goddesses love you? Have you the courage to bear the pain that will surely attend that love? Of course you do. We know, because we recognize our own. We know you. You are an Amazon. And that is just freaking incredible. Oh, as a woman who has a Wonder Woman tattoo and who dresses up as Wonder Woman on a regular basis, I read that and was like, that is what every woman needs to hear. We forget that the most important thing we can do is not only love other people, but love ourselves. And to have this book, like Kelly Sue and essentially the voice of these goddesses and Hippolyta, to say, you can do that. You can love other people. You can love the world. But most of all, you can love yourself, because you are this badass woman. Because we see that in you and we know that about you. Because you are. Because you exist. You already are. You already are enough. You already are a warrior. You are already worthy of love. And you can do all of those things because the goddesses gave you that power when they made you a woman. And this is freaking fantastic way to wrap up the story. Not showing you what actually happens at the end on those pages, because also just like, as a fan of the Amazon culture of the Wonder Woman universe, I also was like, oh, that's great. I love it. If you've never read anything Wonder Woman, just start here. This is literally like recreating the world of the Amazon, so just start here. Good luck finding issue 1. I'm hoping we're going to get a beautiful hardcover of all 3 issues. I don't even like hardcovers, but I want a hardcover of all 3 issues of this because it's some of the best art. Fine art, hang it on your gallery. Mondo makes some posters. So good. Wonder Woman Historia, give it all the Eisners. It's going to happen. Let's just call it now. This summer I'm going to be talking about how Nicola Scott won an Eisner for being amazing, and Kelly Sue wrote a great book. So anyway, Wonder Woman Historia, pick of the week. Had some great picks. I'm going to talk about some other books that are in stock really quickly after I drink this wine. I did not bring all of the books that are in stock. I only brought the other indies that I didn't talk about. And like maybe two books. So really quickly, 20th Century Man from Image Comics issue 5 is out this week. I was like, is it last week? No, it's this week. This is one of those books that everybody that shops here is picking up. So if you haven't checked it out, you should. Good Boy, Volume 3, Issue 2 is out. This is your reverse John Wick. What if an anthropomorphic dog lost his owner and now he is hunting down everybody that was responsible for the death of his owner? We've kind of gone into a little bit further of his story. Also ending this week was DC versus Vampires. This is All Out War. This is DC versus Vampires. They came together. I think DC versus Vampires All Out War came out last week. And then DC versus Vampires came out this week. So read All Out War issue 6 before you read DC versus Vampires issue 12. The whole story wraps up. I'm hoping it's like a deceased situation and we're going to get way more of the story than we've gotten. I hope this isn't the end. Again, we've all said it. DC versus Vampires, you have no right to be as good as you are. You made me want to cosplay a Wonder Twin. Good job, DC versus Vampires. But again, it's Matthew Rosenberg and James Tynion, so duh, of course it's great. Speaking of James Tynion, Nice House on the Lake, issue 12, finally here. I'm not telling you a damn thing about it. Just know that if you've been reading Nice House on the Lake, you gotta read it. And if you haven't read it yet, Volume 1 is out in trade. Volume 2 will be out in trade in like March. So, get to read it. Great thriller, great, like, what's going to happen, suspense story. Just read it. I'm not going to tell you anything about it because the whole thing is a spoiler. Something is Killing the Children 27, also out from Boom Studios and James Tynion this week. Like I said, Sulfur Wells issue 3 came out. We talked about issue 4 earlier, but if you missed issue 3, it came out at the same time, so you're not behind. Stabby Bunny from Scout Comics has returned with issue 12. If you've never read Stabby Bunny, this is all about a girl who, her rabbit, like stuffed bunny, is kind of demon-possessed and protects her. Image is celebrating its 30th anniversary. This is issue 9 of the anthology that is celebrating that. The first story in it has some fantastic Andrea Moody art, so I recommend that one for sure. It's a Jeff Johns, Andrea Moody story. It's been great. This one also has a criminal story in it, Dead Eyes, Familiar Feels, and they've all had some Scotty Young, like, fun in it, and Kieran Gillen. So, jump into that if you are fans of Image Comics. It's a great way to celebrate. Issue 4 of Vanish from KLC Press, aka Donny Cates and Ryan Stegman, is out. This is kind of your Harry Potter meets Spawn story. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has Saturday Morning Adventure. Issue 3 is out. If you are fans of the Ninja Turtle cartoon and you are not reading this, you gotta read it. This is fantastic. It's just episodes of the Ninja Turtles, basically. From Whatnot Press, we had Ninja Funk issue 2 out this week as well. This is a fun space romp of a story with some people who are just trying to figure it out. Halloween, Seeker of the Key, 7 Keys, issue 3 is out from Opus Press. This is one of those heavy metal books from the band Halloween. I didn't know they were a band, but I knew I loved this comic, so you should check it out if you haven't yet. Siblings who are find out that they're in charge of the 7 keys to the universe and are not doing so well at protecting them. From Source Point Press, Heaven's Rejects. This is what if Charlie's Angels were actually angels and they were terrible at their job. And speaking of Ninja Turtles, TMNT, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 2 has started up from Boom Studios and IDW. This is your fantastic Jenny Frison, April O'Neil variant. It's gorgeous. Everything I possibly could need in a cover. April O'Neil, Jenny Frison, just looking like a really, really cool person. Yeah, I need it. I love it. This is fantastic. And, it's Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers. Everybody that came in this week was like, oh my god, but in Volume 1, it was so cool when this happened. And I'm like, well, now we're on Volume 2. Who knows how much cooler it's going to get. Trades that came out in the last 2 weeks. We had volume 4, I think. Volume 4 of Department of Truth. I cannot believe we're already 5 volumes in because we are still going with Department of Truth. This has been such a great James Tynion story about a ministry department in the government that is responsible for making sure that all of the conspiracy theories that people believe in don't become reality. From Image Comics, we have the entirety of Bolero out. This is a massive book. It was 5 issues. They were all oversized. This is humongous. This is the story of a girl who is terrible at relationships and is trying to figure it out and is offered the opportunity by a cat who controls the universe to have the chance at 52 different lives. She's given keys to the universe, and you can only jump into different dimensions that many times, 52 times, and she's so bad at relationships that every time anything gets hard, she just keeps jumping, and then she finds out that, she's not the only one who does it, and maybe you have to just actually learn to deal with your problems. Really great book. Definitely check it out. It's literally called Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind meets Lock and Key. I have never thought of that, but that is definitely a great way to describe this book, so check it out if you like either of those. From Dark Horse, their Comixology Originals. I don't know if you know, Dark Horse has a partnership with Comixology. They are bringing creator titles that were only on Comixology to print through Dark Horse. And this is Michael Conrad, who is known for his work on Wonder Woman with Becky Cloonan and Batgirls with Becky Cloonan and being married to Becky Cloonan. After I say all of those Becky Cloonan connections. This is Michael Conrad working on a story that is 2 people who are about to have a kid and they want to have their last, hurrah, go to the Scottish Highlands, trying to enjoy their things, and a bunch of dark, crazy stuff happens in Scotland while they're there. So if you're looking for a new good horror thriller, this is a great one to check out. Michael's a great writer, and you're going to enjoy this story. And then lastly, from Source Point Press, we have Volume 1 of Cover of Darkness. If you know me, you know I love this story. It is about a Romani family who all get tangled up into the world of the Universal monsters and just kind of get stuck in the middle of this battle to prove who's the greatest monster. And we get some backstories on how each of the monsters come to power. We get a great story of a family trying to find each other and find themselves through this war. And things get crazy. This is Volume 1. It's issues 1 through 5. Since then, we have had an Origins one-shot that is not included in here. And I know that the creator has commented on this live stream before to tell us that there is even more to come from Cover of Darkness. And I cannot wait. Grab this, Universal Monsters fans. You're not going to want to miss it. I'm not going to tell you what's coming out this week because I didn't write it down, but also because I just overwhelmed you with a lot of books that you need to pick up from the last 2 weeks, which is really what I want you to do. Come check out the books that came out in the last 2 weeks. There's going to be some new books this week, but you may have missed out on a lot of great opportunities for some great stories. If you did, stop by the store. I'm happy to talk to you about all of the books I talked about tonight or any of the other books that are coming up. Or go to your local comic book shop and talk to them about some of the titles that you heard on here. There are some great books coming out. It's the end of the year, which is always kind of like Oscar season, where people throw some of their best work out right before the end of the year so they can get in for those Eisner nominations, which are our version of the Oscars in comics. So you got to go to your comic shop. You got to pick up some of these books that came out in the last 2 weeks. There's too many beautiful, incredible stories you don't want to miss. It's Monday, not Wednesday, so while we normally wind down your weekend, today we wind down your holidays or wind up your week, however you want to look at it. We're going to see you in our shop on Wednesday for New Comic Book Day. If we don't see you then, we'll see you on Sunday back at our regularly scheduled programming, 9 p.m. for Wind Down Your Weekend. There is going to be that end-of-year wrap-up for the best books of 2022 coming soon. I'm not going to know how to narrow it down, so hopefully you've got some ideas, because I'm probably just going to bring every book that came out last year and tell you it was the best. So we'll see how it goes. I'll see you on Wednesday, or I'll see you next Sunday as we wind down your weekend. Have a good one. Happy reading. Bye.